Good morning. Good morning. If you're here for the January Society of Advice workshop, you're in the right place. So with that, Bari Tessler. Hi, Barry.
Hi, Carl.
So good to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me.
Barry really honestly is either the mother or the grandmother. I saw you and Rick talk about this of a thing called financial therapy, and she's not part of any group. It's like the coolest thing I've witnessed.
But I got the master's. I have the master's degree. And so Forrest, my husband, coined, he came up with financial therapy. He was the first one to say that.
One, I'm pretty convinced that if you want to be a better financial planner, speaking broadly, you need to be a better person. And Barry's sort of unashamed about pushing the idea that we all have our own work to do, right? And that it actually is pretty important that we do it, or at least that we're engaged in it, so that we can help clients engage in it. You know what I'd love to start with is this quote that I ran across. My superpower is the art of unshaming.
Yeah.
Talk to us
So
a little bit about that.
a client said that to me. I usually don't like to say, oh, I mean, I do. I mean, this is what I'm good at. This is what I suck at. But a client said that to me after a private session years and years ago, that your superpower was helping people unshame.
What does that mean?
So, I mean, do I need to back up a tiny bit?
You can you can go wherever you want.
um, so you all know I'm a financial therapist, not a financial planner, right? And I'll explain what that is. But I've been doing financial therapy since 2001. So for 23 years, right? So over 2 decades. And then a decade before is where I spent my 20s training to be a therapist. And the first time I stepped into the world of financial planners was in 2004 with Nasruddin.
Mm,
So Dick Wagner, Rick Haler, the late
hmm
Dick Wagner, Rick Haler, George Kinder, they invited me into one of their events and I gave a talk.
mm.
So I got to, understand more of the financial planner world and start collaborating. So I come to this from a psychotherapist place and a body-centered psychotherapist.
Mm.
So I've been doing this work in groups. I haven't been doing it on my own, right? I mean, I've been doing my own work, but from day one, I wanted to do my financial therapy in a group. So the very first evening of my financial therapy group, and I asked everyone to start telling their money story, to talk about their family history. And I could just see deer in the headlights. People just shut down. People, I could tell, got scared. And I was asking them to tell their life story about money. And everyone just kind of shut down. And I realized that evening that I was not giving them a tool to
Mm.
help them slow down, check in with their body, you know, find a deeper breath, find a way to get more present. Everyone just checked out of their body. And so the very next week, I brought in a somatic tool from my training as a therapist. I spent my entire 20s training as a somatic therapist. So the very first tool, and we'll get to unshaming, I'm getting there. The very first
Okay.
tool I brought in was the body check-in.
Mm.
And you all probably do a version of it. Some people call it just getting centered, meditation. I ask folks, when I'm doing a body check-in, it's what's going on physically, what's going on, sensations, what's the emotion, right? So this one tool is what I brought to the group the second time we met. I
Mm.
mean, this was a 6-week group 23 years ago, and it changed everything.
Mm.
It changed really everything.
What did
So,
it change?
oh,
Like, what's the most important thing that it changed?
well, I mean, this is a practice, right? This is not a one and done. So all of my tools and practices seem really simple, but when you actually practice them and do them, right, they're profound or they're life-changing. So I invite people to do a body check-in before you're going to have a money conversation or before you're going to make a money decision, right? Or before you're going to go online and check your balances and look at your numbers and go through reports and look at cash flow. I invite people to do a body check in the heat of the moment. Sometimes we forget to do prep and do the body check-in before. Like, I'm going to go have a money conversation with my spouse or my parents or my kids or my financial planner. Do a body check-in. Sometimes you remember in the moment, and it can just help you come down. Oh, this is not so scary. So for me, it's a much longer, this little body check-in leads to a much longer practice
Hmm.
that I invite people to do before money conversations, before meeting with any financial professional, before making any money decision.
The impact you can have if we can help people get clear about what's really important to them. So I love this idea of being able to check in and making a practice of paying attention.
I mean, 23 years ago, this did seem hippie and out there, which was ridiculous to me. You know, someone said, "Oh, it's so woo woo," or I was like, "What do you
Right.
mean? Your feelings are so out there,
Your
so
feelings.
hippie, like your feelings," you know? But I guess it was just bringing feelings to the money conversation and bringing feelings to the financial
Spreadsheet.
industry.
Yeah.
And of course, so I always say, I mean, I'm going to be working on my money stuff until the day I die. And every year I'm always fine tuning. What do I need to work on this year? Is it the emotions, or do I need to get, do I need to move their money ceiling or change my business model, or do I
Yeah.
need to, whatever, I have a teenager. Do I need to, we're doing pretty good with him, I mean,
Yeah.
he once said, "So tell me how much you make," and I was like, "Well, I will tell you this number, but I'm also going to give you the context of monthly expenses, right? This is what mortgage is. This is what, so on, right?"
Okay, Barry, we've got to have time for business model stuff because I'm so curious about this and people have asked a lot about it. Like specifically group. You mentioned it in the first 30 seconds, like most of your work was group. Why groups?
I think money healing and transformation and change can happen in a group. And it's scary. I mean, groups are scary. People feel shame. They just feel like I'm the odd one out, I'm the weird one, I'm the other. And my groups have always been people from all different backgrounds, economic classes, 20 to 80 years old.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, I didn't work with really low income folks, but everyone else, right? And so the person from a wealthy family would come in and say, I can't talk about my money stuff because I shouldn't have any issues. I have tons of money. So what is my problem? Right. And they feel left out. Or, me coming from a middle class family, there was so much generosity and then so many strings attached and so much
Mm.
power, control, and dynamics with me and my dad, a lot of tough love. So, or if you are lower income, then you have shame around that. And my business model has always been groups, and
Mm.
which is very non-traditional, because trained as a therapist, we're supposed to have, I don't know, 5 to 10 clients a day, and that always horrified me. I especially being an older mom and then menopause and all this stuff, I don't want to have 5 to 10 private clients. I want to have one a day, and then I want to teach groups, or I want to do interviews, and so
Mm.
for me, also, the business model of a therapist has a ceiling, a very clear money ceiling. This is how much you can make based on how many clients you can have. And you can keep raising your fees, certainly. But at some point, I realized really early on, in order to leverage my time and still do the work that I love and that I'm really good at, is to lead groups and facilitate groups
Mm.
through my 3-phase financial therapy method. Yeah.
You're focused now on the Art of Money yearly, like the Art of Money yearly program, the group program.
Well, that's what I've been doing for 12 years. That's my main thing. And it's for lay folks, but I also always get financial professionals and therapists in that program, because can you imagine being in a group similar to this,
Yeah.
of a few hundred people, and you're getting to see people's money stories and how they do money dates and family stuff. You get to see it all, because we used to have a forum. Now we have a Saturday co-working. So every Saturday we have a co-working session that my alumni guides lead. I call myself a rogue agent. I love
I
teaching.
love this about you. Like this is one thing I want to make sure everybody knows. Like if you've been Dan Sullivan for 20 years has been saying more and more financial planners are going to be unregulated, selling a like basically a process. And now this is pointing to a different thing. I don't want to put you in the same category, but this is an example of somebody who said, hey, I can operate outside the system. There are plenty of people who do those sorts of things. I'm not suggesting it, please. I'm just saying, don't let it be something that scares you because it's
Right.
so beautiful. Now, Barry, there's like we go on forever, but I have to get to Liz because Liz asks great
Okay.
questions. I mean, everybody asks great questions, but Liz has been waiting patiently. So Liz, fire away.
Yeah, my question is with being such an emotionally attuned person, I've
Keep
noticed for
going.
myself, like I'm great one to one and I'm great one to many.
Yeah.
And just considering that space of, 10 to 12 people or less where I'm really reading their body language, but I'm getting pretty overwhelmed as a sensitive person. What have you found? Like, how did you sort through that?
I mean, my entire training as a therapist was we did one-on-one facilitation over and over, but we did group work over and over and over. And training to be a therapist, we had to be our own case study. So that was a huge part of my training. That's where the fact that I didn't go to a very clinical graduate program, I went to Naropa University, which integrates Eastern and Western philosophy and teaching. So we were in there doing group work over and over and over. And personally, I used to freak out when I would go to lead a group in graduate school. I would just get in there and get too overwhelmed. And it would be hard to track even 10 people. So I practiced the body check-in over and over and over in myself. So what I'm trying to say is that I learned how to practice this oscillation of checking in with myself, looking out to the group to see what's going on, coming back to myself. What am I noticing? What am I feeling? Now I'm going to look out and check in with one person. Now I'm going to come back to myself. So does that help you a bit? Yeah, of what to work on?
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Barry, thank you so much.
You're
Thanks
welcome.
everybody. We will see you in whatever the next month is, February. Hello, hello. Somebody on the team, every day, 3 times a day, she just pulls out a little notebook and she writes 3 words about how she's feeling. Like excited, interested, nervous. Just 3 words. Feel like I'm getting hit by that idea um that Barry shared from like 7 different directions right now. The idea of just being like more aware
Yeah.
of how I'm feeling. Is that land for you for you?
There's a practice. Yeah, I've worked with an organization and they call it the freeze exercise. And it's a similar thing to ground yourself or just to get yourself back in the moment. And it's what are you thinking? What are you feeling? And what are you doing?
Hmm.
And because when you find yourself, for instance, being distracted and you just get yourself to freeze and sort of what am I thinking, feeling, and doing, you really get in tune with, yeah, what's actually going on with you. And you can really recenter yourself. So I feel like your colleague is doing something similar where she's just sort of noticing,
Mhm.
just noticing what's actually happening in her space. And it's allowing her to just then continue to focus on her work.
With that as a warm up, let me just ask you, and Aaron, maybe we can start with you. Like, what was the insight from today for you, if you had to pick one?
It was good because I know I was going to be on this call, so I really had to pay attention today.
Maybe we should invite everybody to these. That's funny.
Yeah, it really is. It's a whole, I love the body check-in. I think I'm a compassionate person to begin with, and I try to have those conversations. I always have, even when I first started 24, 25 years ago. My frustration is I have this proverb, I got it from some of the divorce work I do. It's saying it's not my circus, it's not my monkeys, or it's not my monkeys, not my circus. Because I sometimes try to take on some of these things, take these problems on myself. So the other thing I wrote, I was hoping somebody would address it. I wrote in the thing, and I've had this conversation before, there's difference between financial coaching, financial planning, and financial therapy. And I think it's really, really important. I was hoping she would comment on it because I'm not a therapist. I'm not trained as a therapist, but when you see something not right, especially if you're working with an individual or a couple, like who am I to like you said, I don't want to be judgy. I don't want to criticize, you know,
Yeah, that was in my notes. I just, we just never, I
we couldn't
mean,
get to it.
we do such good, the team does such great research on where we want to go. We're always way over prepared, which is great. But one of my questions, and I've always had this question, is how do you know the line? How do you deal with something? Because I remember it only happened once, which is surprising to me. Only once where I got into a situation where I was like, oh, this is way out of my like skill level. It was, revealing something about a divorce, and I was like, wow, I don't. And so yeah, that was in my question too. And I think we'll get somebody on specifically to talk about that. Valeria, what insight stuck out to you? If you had to pick one, you
Yeah,
only get one.
one, oh God, I took like loads of notes. But
Mm,
one of the things you said, Carl, was if you want to be a better financial planner, you have to be a better person, right?
mm,
Now, I've been using a coach for myself for many years now, and I can totally relate to what you said and what Barry said, yeah, about listen, you have to like help yourself to become a better person, to understand yourself first, how you are as a person, and then you can finally, sit back and then relate to what the people in front of you are telling you, because otherwise you're just going straight into the numbers, the spreadsheets, and the financial planning and stuff. Instead, if you know yourself, you know your weaknesses, you know what you're good at and what you're not good at,
mm,
you can start relating to these people and ask the right questions. So, for example, when it comes to a couple that is in front of me, um, I can tell right away that they are terrified to even peek at their numbers or their like family budget, because they never talked about it. Yeah, and this is way more common than people might think. But as financial planners, we say that's not possible. I mean, you must have like a family budget. You must know how much you're spending, how much you're earning. And people are just, no, we don't. And it's a huge paralyzing roadblock between them and a clear money decision. And you're right there just to move this like block away. But if you don't understand how they are as a person and not knowing how you are, it's impossible for you to help them move this roadblock.
mm. I'm noticing, and I always do, these calls are always like, okay, we have a half an hour. I have like 17 questions for all three of you based on what you've said, and I I I can't. Um, Jenny, what do you think you'll do differently? Like what will you do differently because of the experience today in the workshop?
I think for me, again, because of my client base, which
Yep.
is all of you, I think I love the practice of the check-in. I think it's something I do a lot for myself, sort of unconsciously.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think if I can somehow bring that in, because I think, especially if you imagine you're scheduled to see me at 10, but you've just hung up a call with one of your clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, what do you need to do to be present? And I think I say that sometimes, but there is an element of that of, what do you need to do to get into the conversation that we're about to have? And and I think it's something personally, if I do that as well, like it's just I'm bringing my best self, and they will more likely then bring their best self to the discussion. And I think that's something that I can really start focusing on, and it just elevates the conversation just tremendously.
Valeria, what do you think you'll do different?
Well, believe it or not, but right after the call with Barry, I had to call a prospect client. Yeah. And I said to myself, okay, let's try and utilize some of the things that I learned from Barry.
Mm,
Yeah. So this client, is a lawyer, and he was like all worked up and all, nervous. And I said, okay, how was your day? How has your day been? I said, what do you mean? Yeah. How was your day? Tell me.
mm,
I mean, you're a financial advisor. You're not supposed to know how my day went. I know, but still would like to know how your day went, and we can talk. And then he started talking about his day, and he told me a lot of the crunchy bits, that you talked about more all the time,
The crunchy bits.
My work is killing me. I don't want to do this anymore. But and I would like to teach at some point. And then he moved on to the work. Say, oh, so you would like to go into teaching? So you would like to stop working as a lawyer? Yeah, exactly. But I don't know how to do this. Okay, so I said, relax, sit down. I mean, we were on the phone, obviously, but sit down. We can talk about this dream of yours, yeah. But if I hadn't create a space, say, tell me how is it going, you would not have told me these crunchy bits. So even if the clients or prospect clients might not be expecting such a question from a financial plan, how has your day been, how are you, do the body check and stuff like that, they do enjoy it, and they open up and they throw crunchy bits all over the places, for you to pick up.
So that's amazing. So you've seen something practical.
Yeah,
immediately
absolutely.
after. Yeah,
absolutely. It worked marvelously. And this guy now wants to have a conversation with his wife, and let's talk about this, and they were to do this with that.
Yeah,
that was very interesting, I thought.
Aaron, what do you think you'll do differently?
I think that the way she opened up about the body check and making sure I am 100% present, breathing, take a 5-minute meditation or so forth.
Did any of you find the business model stuff interesting? Provoking?
Yeah.
It's always good to reassess, right? What's working, what needs improvement, what will I do differently?
Hey, it's Carl. In this month's Society of Advice workshop, there were so many things that stuck out to me, but one that was particularly impactful for me, because it's something that I'm actively paying attention to right now, is how can I, this sounds a little internet Twitter threadish, but how can I make more money with more ease? And that's something that Bari Tessler talked about at the end of our call. How can I make more money or more impact? And she was unashamed about, how can I make more money with more ease? By asking interesting questions. She called it a money koan, like a puzzle that I can just sort of sit with and think about. I loved that part of the call. I think you're going to love it too. As a member of the Society of Advice, you'll hear that key takeaway and more in this month's workshop. If you're looking to share the Society of Advice with a friend, we talk about go tell the others, a friend that can join us, you can send them to thesocietyofadvice.com, thesocietyofadvice.com. And remember, we want the others, your friends, to come and see. So we've made the first month free. Now, we didn't do that as a sales technique. We did that because we know that the Society of Advice is better experienced, right? It's really hard to describe better to experience. So, my friends, enjoy that takeaway and so much more from this month's call. And please go tell the others.